Hello and welcome back to the Science Behind That podcast. I am your host, Atticus Hamilton, and for all of you new listeners out there, the Science Behind That is a show where we take a deep dive into the obscure science of everyday life. Into the science of everything from physics to engineering, and biology to zoology, and psychology to anatomy, we take a deep dive. So without further ado, welcome to today's episode of the Science Behind That podcast. Hello everybody and welcome back to Season 1, Episode 8 of the Science Behind That podcast. I hope all of you are having a good morning. I know I'm having a good morning. It's really snowy here, which is cool. I love the snow. So, without further ado, I guess, let's jump right into today's episode. Grab your morning cup of coffee or tea and let's get on with it. So, today we are going to be talking about what the biology is behind a hangover. And, so I'm sure most, if not all of you listening, have experienced a hangover at one point or another in your lives. I personally have never experienced a hangover, but I have heard from my friends who have that it's not a fun thing. And so we're going to be talking about what causes a hangover, why do we get them, and We'll dive right into that. So, first off, I think it's important for me to say that everything we're going to be talking about on today's episode is still under debate. And the reason for this is that within the medical field, there's still a lot of discussion as to what the mechanisms are of hangovers. And why some people experience them and others don't, why some people experience them to a much more painful degree than others, and so there's a lot of debate about that, so I just want to put that out there. Additionally, a lot of my statistical data for this came from a research paper that was published in Scientific American. So if you just Google why we get a hangover, I think it should come up. But I just want to throw that out there. So, first off, roughly 75% of individuals who become intoxicated will experience a hangover. Roughly 75%. And then, of course, that can be broken down into severity, right? So 33% of that 75 will experience a really severe hangover, and then the rest will just be a not as severe. And so I think the first thing we'll just jump right into is a theory behind where some symptoms may come from. So, as some of you may know, or as all of you probably know, the liver breaks down alcohol. But something that is a little less frequently discussed is how exactly does the liver break down alcohol. And so we could have an entire episode on how hepatocytes, liver cells, break down alcohol, but I'll spare you the really nitty-gritty medical details, and we'll just simmer it down to a chemical called acetaldehyde is produced, and acetaldehyde breaks down alcohol. So, acetaldehyde is a product of alcohol metabolism. And while it's a product, or because it's a product of alcohol metabolism, it can be concentrated in the blood, right? Because the kidneys filter out the blood. And the kidneys remove toxins from our blood, including alcohol. And acetaldehyde is a byproduct of alcohol reductase in the liver, and so when you drink to intoxication, acetaldehyde will stack up in terms of concentration. The concentration will dramatically increase within the blood, and various effects will be seen. And it's actually apparently been discovered that acetaldehyde is a major contributor to hangover symptoms, such as increasing the frequency and severity of a hangover, and the pain associated with it. So that's one idea, and doctors these days are thinking it's probably a conglomerate of multiple things. Another thing that this team of researchers found was that hangovers may be an early sign of alcohol addiction, because the theory is that a hangover is essentially an early sign of alcohol withdrawal. However, that's not confirmed. So there's still fuzziness about that. So additionally, alcohol or high alcohol concentrations increases what's called antidiuretic hormone. Inhibits antidiuretic hormone. And antidiuretic hormone, as the name implies, against. Diuretic is a dehydrating substance, so an anti-dehydration substance. So an antidiuretic hormone is a hormone that prevents water loss. And alcohol inhibits that, which is why commonly you see people urinating in higher frequency, vomiting in higher frequency, and just being universally dehydrated. And that actually brings up an interesting point, right? One of the theories for why people have a headache after a bad hangover is because of the inhibition of antidiuretic hormone during the period of time of which they were intoxicated. It results in severe dehydration, and one of the symptoms of dehydration is a very, very painful headache. The other big thing that may exacerbate a hangover, and there is some interesting biology behind this, is drinking alcohol in tandem with other drugs such as nicotine, weed, acid. These other drugs will react either antagonistically or synergistically with alcohol, especially nicotine. So this is something that a lot of people don't think of, but nicotine and alcohol are synergists for addiction of both compounds. So recent studies have found that individuals who frequently drink various alcohols and smoke at the same time often report higher degrees of withdrawal symptoms and addictive tendencies to both smoking then and alcohol, and that's because they react synergistically with each other to produce addictive tendencies. So this is This is kind of a short episode. I know that, because again, there's not a lot of concrete information. about why we experience hangovers, and more so, there's not a lot of concrete information on why, from a pathological perspective and an anatomical perspective, why we experience hangovers. But basically, it simmers down to three things. Number one, alcohol is a inhibitory antidiuretic drug. And as a result of that, individuals who are intoxicated result excessive sweating, urination, emesis, etc. And researchers believe, some believe anyway, that a large contributing factor to the symptoms of alcohol withdrawal afterwards is the dehydration that results. Because when you're drinking, wine coolers, that's what people in my university do. When you're drinking wine coolers back to back, you're not consciously thinking, oh, hold on, let me grab a bottle of water to make sure I stay hydrated. And so that results in a higher likelihood that individuals will experience severe dehydration in the morning, contributing to a host of things: pain behind the eyes, headache, etc. Then, of course, the second idea was, or a second theory, I guess it's a hypothesis. The second hypothesis was that hangovers may be a sign of early alcohol addiction, which personally, I don't know if I agree with that, and I'll tell you why. I don't know if I agree with that because 75% of individuals experience hangovers, but 75% of individuals who drink alcohol are not alcoholics. You see what I'm saying here? So, because presumably, if hangovers were an indicator or early warning sign of alcohol addiction, alcohol withdrawal, then wouldn't you expect that the number of alcoholics out of the total number of people who drink alcohol to be closer to 75%? I don't know. It just seems kind of weird that it's not. And then, of course, finally, the last one is that the metabolism process of alcohol reduction results in the creation of various compounds, such as acetaldehyde, that have numerous pathological effects on the body, including, again, antidiuretic properties, causing pain behind the eyes, etc., muscle pain. So those are the three, I guess, medical theories behind what causes hangovers. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I know it was a little shorter. But it was fun for me to do. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any more questions afterwards, or if you guys are wondering if, your own hangover, remedy works, you can always email me at thesciencebt@gmail.com. And thank you guys very much for listening. So have a great Monday morning, everybody. And remember, stand up and question everything.